Everyone. What I'm going to cover today is the journey we've been on the last couple of years, having to implement a new junior maths program. I did quite a bit of research for a few years, and I kept thinking we need to do better, and had a bit of trouble getting it accepted. In the end, they said, "Yeah, we'll let you have a shot at it," and the results been pretty good. So good that I thought we need to share this, and if you get one or two ideas out of it, all the better. Now, I'm only going to be able to give you a taster because there's quite a bit involved in it. And I've given you my email address at the end, but I'm sure you can find a contact for me. And if you have any questions, you want any resources, or you want to catch up, just drop me an email. I'll be more than happy to help. Okay, so let's get started. So St. Peter's is a Catholic boys' school, and the program is focused on boys. We cover year 7 to year 13, but year 7 and 8 are in middle school. So as a faculty, we don't get really to touch them until they join us in year 9. The program is focused on boys. So I've just been to St. Mary's College recently, and it was a stark reminder to me that there is definitely a difference between an all-girls school and an all-boys school. So you know what works best for your own schools, and you can have a look on this, about this. All right, now, about 2 years ago at the start, we decided we needed to focus a lot more on the junior school. So we came up with a new mission statement for our maths faculty, which is to engender a love of mathematics and enable each pupil to reach and fulfill their full mathematical potential. Now, that's what I would call a lofty aim. And we thought if we can get them to love maths, we're going to have much less of a problem in senior school, which makes sense. So the big picture for us is there are 3 things. If we can engender a love for maths, they'll be more motivated, try harder, generally in later years because we're really struggling. If we can create a positive mathematical mindset in our students starting with year 9, they'll be more resilient, and obviously they'll learn from their mistakes. They'll keep trying rather than giving up, because we found a lot of that happening as well. And lastly, if we give them the tools to be successful in mathematics and, a good understanding of how to learn maths, how effective study and revision strategies, and how to manage themselves, that's the executive process strategies, they'll be more effective learners, not only in maths, but also across other subjects. And the interesting thing is, towards last year when we introduced it, towards the end of the year, some of the boys were saying, "Sir, I can use all these things in my other subjects and they should be the same help, right?" And there was suddenly the light bulbs were starting to go on, which was really good. So previous approach was, I would say, quite, I wouldn't want to say it's traditional, but it's quite a standard approach from what I've seen at schools, experienced myself. We focus mainly on the senior school, meaning year 11, 12, and 13. And I always felt like I was like the ambulance at the bottom of a cliff trying to get boys across the line and passing their standards, when I thought, if we prepare them better in year 9, we won't have as many problems in senior school. But we focus on the senior school. We put all our best teachers there to try and get everyone to get the best results. A lot of us were just teaching content and following a scheme of work. So we just, marching to the beat of the drum, teaching the content, and we didn't really cover a lot of the aspects that go around being successful in maths. And I think you can see where I'm going with this. We didn't address any of the fear and anxiety in maths, and we saw a lot of it, particularly in St. Peter's. We do a Cambridge class and a Cambridge course and an NCA course, and particularly in the NCA stream, I noted a lot of fear and anxiety amongst the students. I hate maths, I suck at maths, and before they even start, they give up because they think, I don't want to look stupid. We didn't allow calculators in year 9 and 10. That was a bit of an archaic thinking that not having calculators would help number sense, but the two are not actually connected. If anything, the lack of calculators took up too much conceptual bandwidth in the head. So people were, the boys were spending so much time trying to work out calculations. They didn't have enough mental space to really absorb the concepts. And but now thinking was, oh no, they shouldn't be able to use calculators. They need to, excuse me, they need to get number sense by not using calculators. And we didn't teach them how to learn maths or revise maths, and there was no focus on mindset or attitude. And that was a lot. And I thought, gee, there must be something we need to change here. And what we're observing, as you can imagine, negative attitudes, fear and anxiety. The number sense amongst boys were generally poor. Even when you look at some of the boys in year 9, you say, what's 3 times 5? And they'll look at you and have to think and work it out rather than it just, picturing and coming reasonably quickly. We had to reteach concepts, procedures, and methods in depth over and over again, right? I found we were teaching this in year 9, teaching in year 10, teaching in year 11. And the boys were always saying, no, I never learned that last year. I said, but you were in my class, it happened. And I think what is there, I'm not saying that we don't have to reteach these things here, but with what we're doing, and hopefully you'll see it, is that more is retained from year to year. So the foundation becomes stronger. And as it goes from year to year, we get, we can build on the foundation more and more rather than starting with a blank field each time. Boys didn't know how to learn, didn't know how to revise. They give us feedback that what revision did you do? Or I looked at my book, which is basically almost a waste of time. And executive function skills, the main ones were like organizing themselves, planning for their homework, goal orientation, planning their revision. As you can imagine, most of them would wait till the day before the exam to do a bit of cramming, and the results followed. I'm not saying that's generally everyone, but the boys that got it, and they applied these good practices. But the thing we want to do is to make sure that everyone was exposed to the good practices so that they at least knew what they could do. So this, sorry. Okay, I'll just carry on. So this is probably the one graphic or schematic that outlines the whole program for us. All right. So the first thing, and I'm going to be showing some videos of the boys giving feedback. So you might want to turn your volume right up so that you can hear what the boys have to say. This schematic basically, I'm going to break it down bit by bit, but the first consideration is what is the classroom environment we're going to set up, and that includes things like the classroom culture and things like that, and then the attitudes of the students coming in, and how can we make that more positive. Then the strategies they get in terms of how to learn maths, how to organize themselves, the science of learning, and then basically their part of it was putting the effort in and implementing these things to get the best outcome. Now, obviously, there's a whole underlayer of maths content in there, but I'm not going to focus too much on that. I'm talking more about the things that support the best outcome from that. So when we look at the classroom environment, all right, sorry, let me get back. I didn't want to start that just yet. It's a bit delayed. Okay. When we look at the classroom environment, what we did this year, like all the junior teachers developed a classroom management plan. Basically, what are the good habits we want to see in class, how the class will be run, what the expectations are, and those sort of things. And they were written and they were shared with parents and students at the start of the year. And it was really, really important to make sure that all teachers were 100% consistent in implementing that classroom management plan, so that the boys learned good habits. Before year 9 starts, I send an email out to all the year 8 students at the end of the year, and encouraging them, and the parents as well, talking to them about our junior maths program, and encouraging them to do an online course by Joe Bowler, who's very good. And the course is How to Learn Maths for Students. It says it takes 6 weeks, but it's a lot less than that. And they learn a lot of myth-busting facts about how to learn maths, like speed isn't as important as depth of knowledge. Mistakes are very valuable because we all learn from mistakes. So they learn all those key things before they come in. I haven't made it compulsory yet, but we strongly encourage, and I think this year we had about 65% of the students do it. And, there are some reasons, some students might not have access or whatever it is, but we're trying to get that number up quite a bit. So that's basically, and the classroom environment basically also starts with the teaching them about what the safe classroom environment is like. Mistakes are okay. We don't tolerate people embarrassing other students when they make mistakes. We talk about how valuable it is and how we can share it. Humor plays a big part in my class, and building very, very strong relationships. And if you want to ask me what the key is with boys, it's going to be relationships, and relationships. So let's watch a little video with some feedback from the boys about the classroom environment.
The classroom environment is really open, and it makes us feel comfortable about sharing our ideas and having a go at any question rather than being scared to answer, so we can get help on any question that we're struggling with.
Coming into this class, I was quite, I didn't really enjoy math, but I was okay at it. But now this year, I'm starting to enjoy math a lot more because of our classroom environment. Also, through Dad Joke Friday and having an open class atmosphere, which helps us, if we're stuck with a question, we can ask you, and you won't, interact. You'll interact one-on-one with us and show us how to actually solve the problem.
Right.
And yeah, that helps a lot. And I feel more confident asking questions and peering up on places that I'm less confident with.
So what you'll see is a lot of the videos will show Caucasian or Indian boys. It's not because we don't have Pacifica and Maori boys, and it's not because the Pacifica and Maori boys aren't doing well. The issue is they were all too shy to let me interview and video them, and I didn't want to force them. But let me say that the impact on the Pacifica and Maori students in our school is similar to the ones I'm seeing with any of the others. All right, so the next thing we work on basically is the attitude that the students have. As I said, we encourage most of them to come in having completed the online course of How to Learn Maths. And in there, they learn about resilience, how about valuable mistakes are, and how we do learn from mistakes. We shouldn't be embarrassed about it, how speed is not important. It's more important to get depth of knowledge, how to practice, and things like that. When they come in, we establish a classroom culture. We talk about it being positive and safe, and what does that mean for the boys. We have an interactive discussion with them about what does it mean for you to have a safe classroom, and then all the usual stuff as you would expect. We don't embarrass people and all the rest of it. So that's important. And we teach the boys about positive mathematical mindsets and what does that mean, and about resilience, and it becomes a bit of a joke in the class that you're not allowed to say I suck at maths and things like that, or I'm not good at maths, unless you add the word yet at the bottom, at the end, right? I'm not good at maths yet, but I'll get there. As you heard in the last video, I do use a bit of humor in my class as well. We have a Dad Joke Friday, and the boys, because my my junior classes in the last periods of the day. I pick Friday, and then they get up and they tell a dad joke, and if it's okay to get a little piece of chocolate, and it breaks the ice, they all have a little chuckle, and then it energizes the room, and then we get started. All right. So a lot of work on the attitude. There's a lot more that I can add, but I just want to give you a gist of it. And here's another video on some boys talking about the attitude part.
Well, at the beginning of the year, my attitude to maths was not very good, as I had not performed very well in maths the previous year, and also I hadn't enjoyed it, as the teacher didn't really teach us maths, he more assigned us problems to do. But at the end of this year, and at this point now, I have a really positive attitude to maths due to all the different stuff like number talks, brain dumps, and all the new ways we've been learning maths in class. And so that's just really helped make maths quite positive in my mind, and not easy, but it's like easier to figure out stuff, and it's quite fun to figure out challenging problems.
Well, at the start of the year, I didn't really like math too much. It was one of my lower subjects. I wasn't too good at it. But over the year, as the year progressed, I got better at it, and I just enjoyed it a lot more. And I guess it was just through doing, listening and doing the work, and when you actually get what you're doing, it's quite a bit of fun. Yeah.
So the third element I want to talk about is the strategies that we used or that we taught our junior math students. And last year, the focus was very much on year 9s coming in. We did apply it to an extent to year 10s as well. But this year is definitely even across year 9 and 10s, so that they get this really good foundation and they move into the senior school with better established strategies. One of the things we did bring in, because we recognize that learning maths has got a high cognitive load, is that we, in the start of year 9, the starter activity for the first week is learning how to use your scientific calculator, for example. And the boys loved it, right? They all have to have a scientific calculator, and they get a work booklet where they have to go through the booklet and learn most of the functions that the calculator can do that they will need, right? Using powers, square roots, multiple roots, things like that, and how you can get the wrong answer from using calculus. That was a nice start activity. They got into it. They learned how to use their calculators properly, especially with fractions. That's the one that they love the most. All right. And then, as I said, one of the things we do, we apply this number talks. So we aim to do about 2 or 3 every week as a starter activity, and it's basically to develop number sense. And there's several good publications out there, and I've got a very good summary I can share with people about doing number talks as well. And the boys started enjoying it more and more. It's a low pressure task when they get an answer. Mostly they do it mentally. Sometimes they get a piece of paper if it's a bit longer, but mostly they do it mentally. And when they get an answer, instead of putting their hands up, which puts pressure on other students, they put a thumb up in front of their chest so that I can see and the others don't. And then if they get, and I encourage them to find multiple ways of solving the problem. If they find another one, they stick their index finger out. And then when I see that the most of the class wants to do it, I ask for volunteers to share. Lots of videos on it as well. And the boys really appreciate it as an activity. It shows them how you can solve problems in different ways. And it teaches the rest, oh, I didn't think of it doing it that way. That's a lot easier. So it teaches them that sort of number sense, whether the number looks correct or not. So that's one thing. The other thing we spend a lot of time teaching the boys is this, the 3 fundamental concepts of the science of learning, which is retrieval practice. So, they get pretty much messages almost every day. If you're not testing yourself and recalling what you need to know, you're not reinforcing the memory. And if you don't have a memory or you can't recall, you can't solve the problem. So we do a lot of brain dumps. We do a lot of retrieval do nows at the start of the class. They come in and we might have a question on there with something they covered the previous day, so that there is that recall element of them testing. We do a lot of low stakes testing, formative testing, so they just get used to doing the recall. The other thing is interleaving, which is mixing up things that they've learned. So instead of doing block exercises, quite often I will give them, like a brain dump might have 6 different topics in it, and I'll spring it on them, so they come into class and they get a sheet and they say, let's do a brain dump today, and they try and get as much as they can, and they share with their buddies to get most of the answers. And then we do mini whiteboards where they write answers on, so everyone has to participate rather than a few putting their hands up. By the way, we don't do hands up in our classes anymore. It's all cold calling, and that way everyone tries to engage, because they don't know if they're going to get called on, and they try and make an answer. And in my class, I also don't accept I don't know as an answer. I said, I don't know is not an acceptable answer. There needs to be an attempt made, right? And like I reinforced, I said, we don't care whether it's right or wrong, right? We just want someone to make an attempt, and a wrong answer is actually valuable, because I'm sure there are other boys thinking about it the same way, and then they get a clarity that that's not the right way to think about it. We teach the boys, the last one is spacing as well, in terms of how to do their retrieval practice. We space it out over weeks so that there is a reinforcement or consolidation of their memory. They learn how to write their theory notes and SWOT notes, so that they keep a record of what they've learned, and they have material that they can do their own brain dumps on. They learn organizational skills. They learn how to plan their homework. They get an assignment in year 9, which is open book. So that's the first time they get used to working offline on a relatively big assignment. It contributes 20% to the mid-year exam, and how to work together, what strategies they can use, how to lay out their work properly. So it sort of keeps focus on the key strategies. So it's like how to learn maths, the science of learning, executive skills, and a few other things. We also offer after-school tutorials Monday, Wednesday, and I offer lunchtime on Thursday, and quite a few of the boys do come for that. So here's another little video segment on a few of the boys talking about the strategies they've used.
One of the activities we did this year was called Number Talks, and when you did a number talk, when you go into class, there'll be a question up on the board, and you have to work that question out in your head, and you have to work it out as many different ways as possible. And when you got one answer with one way, you put one thumb up, and you got 2 answers with 2 ways, you put 2 thumbs up, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that helped me understand is how people solve other questions through different ways and different methods that I use to solve those questions in my head.
I thought the number talks activity was quite good, because it was quite an easy way for all of us as a class to come together and help learn new formula and subjects in maths, and so we could help each other. And also you got to see multiple people's different ways of solving the equations, so you can see how different people approached it and how you could kind of change your mindset to solve different problems.
Some learning strategies that I learned was the Pomodoro's technique that you taught us. It helped us to have a solid foundation of what we should, how much time we should be spending, and also SWOT notes helped us quite a lot, and especially number talks, because it helped us refresh our knowledge on the topics.
Well, I think one of the big ones was the note-taking cards. I never really took too much notes on math. I didn't really know what to write and how to structure it, but with those notes, I knew what I needed to know and knew how to do it, and then I had examples on how I could do it. And I think that helped me a lot, because again, I learned what I was, I learned what I was doing, so yeah.
That I learnt this year for maths was brain dump, and I liked it because it helped me remember the formulas over the course of the year so I wouldn't forget them.
Some of the learning strategies I learnt this year was doing SWOT notes. So after every subject, just writing down a set of notes to help me remember the different formulas and some examples of what the questions would be like. So that would help with the exams. And then once I'd done those notes, I could do a brain dump where I just wrote down everything I remembered. And so if I didn't remember something, I could go back to my notes and help study that. And also doing practical exams also quite well helped doing that as well.
Right. So hopefully that gave you an impression of, straight from the boys' mouths, the kind of impact they were seeing from the work that they were doing. And I guess the last part that we focus on is to make sure the boys put the effort in. And, it's not a trivial thing to get them to put the effort in. There's a bit of discussion that goes on about how much effort they put in. And for my class in particular, I involve the parents a lot in keeping them up to date with what's going on, what the boys are learning, and how much sort of effort they should be putting in at home. And, I'm not looking at 2 hours a day kind of stuff, but I'm looking at, 20 minutes to half an hour. And I said, get into the habit of doing this and how to set up a learning center at home for the boys, and that sort of thing. And the ones that did it was surprising themselves as to how much of a better outcome they were getting. So that's basically the key high-level gist of the program. There's a few other things I just want to cover, like how we implemented and what the results were. So in the implementation, basically, they decided to create a junior maths TIC position, which is me, and give me 2 junior maths classes because I was only getting senior classes before then. I actually did, like I said, I researched it for 3 years, not because I aimed to research for 3 years, but they wouldn't let me do anything for the senior leadership. They wouldn't let me do anything for 3 years. But by the time the 3rd year came, I wrote a handbook that we could use in this school, and it's like 50 pages long. I'm happy to share that with anyone. And I created a resource folder on our shared resources with all the electronic resources that teachers could use. And they finally said, wow, this is looking pretty good. Why don't we do it? Third thing is to get the teacher buy-in, all the junior maths teachers. I got to say that was not a trivial step. Teachers do get quite used to the way they're doing things. And changing that sometimes takes a bit. To make it easy, I basically created as much resources as, so I made it as easy as possible for the teachers to implement the program. At the start of the year, each of the teacher has a little checklist of maybe 11 items they can check off to make sure that everything's been done to get the year started. I do teacher check-ins, observations, and then we reflect on the progress that we're making with the boys. And the most motivating thing for the teachers basically is to see the boys give positive feedback about what's happening. And the teachers could actually see the improvements that were happening. And because of that, they were more motivated to implement this stuff, especially when they're getting it provided. And then, obviously, we have peer-to-peer observations and feedback. And lastly, we do parent and student surveys as well at the end of term 2, so that we get feedback from the parents as to what they're observing from their students, and from the students directly as to how they're feeling about these things. And it's pretty good feedback and very constructive. And based on that, we look, what do we need to change and things like that. So it's a very good closed loop there. In terms of results, we do a survey at the end of term 2, and we get, on average about a 2 to 2.5 improvement in, about a 1.7 improvement in student attitudes on a 5-point scale. We've seen consistent improvement in tests and exam results. The nice thing is we set as a target a 2 grade level improvement in ESL scores, and we've been getting it. We got it last year, and we're obviously aiming to get that again this year. The survey of parents was mostly positive. Some of them, I say mostly positive because some parents are more involved than others, and the ones that gave us feedback were mostly positive. A lot of the parents just said they didn't notice any change. The survey of students was overall positive. And at the end of the year, the teachers that were in the junior maths project also gave positive feedback that the classes were more interesting. It was more fun because the kids were participating, and some of them took longer to implement some of these things than others, but once the inertia started, we started getting the ball rolling. Things were happening. And I think at this stage, I can safely say that none of our teachers in the department would want to go back to how we used to do it, because we've seen what benefit we can get from what we're doing so far. I'll let you read this for yourself. It's quite a long thing, what one parent said. And then at the end of it, I'll make a few comments. Right. Now, some of you, probably the cynics in the class, will be thinking, yeah, he trolled over 200 feedback from parents to find the best one to put it up there. That's not true. I can safely say, hand on heart, last year when I did parent-teacher interviews, out of my 30 boys in my class, the feedback from parents was generally around the similar theme as what you're reading there. This year, I've just finished parent-teacher interviews, and 100% gave positive feedback. They've seen and a much improved motivation and commitment in their sons towards maths. And there's no more better feedback than getting it straight from the horse's mouth. And even, the boys are saying, oh, I enjoy maths a lot better. So I guess if nothing else, even if the results aren't improving significantly, if there is more motivation and more desire to do the subject, we've made a major win already in the boys. So I'm finishing there. It's a bit earlier than expected, but I do want to finish on the note to say, please take a note of my email address. I'm happy to share excuse me, any of the resources that we've developed. I'm happy to answer any questions, chat on the phone, or whatever you want to discuss or have more information. As I said, we've had so much positive feedback from this, from our boys, that I'd like to share as much as possible and to help you. And if you've got anything that you're doing that you think, wow, that might work, just please share with me as well, because it's an ongoing process that we're developing. The last note, just so you know, no students were threatened, bribed, or harmed in the making of this presentation.